My name is Jack Davis, and today we'll be covering a wide array of sports topics as it relates to sports management. Some of the topics I will be covering are complex challenges for sports managers, current and those that they will potentially have to deal with, the role of technology in sports management, three new innovations, how are they used, and its ethical implications. We'll discuss NIL, and we will finally discuss the impact of social media in sports. Let's take a first look at shifting fan engagement and demographics. So, the first issue I want to talk about is how that fans are choosing to watch the game on TV or streaming devices rather than going to the game in person. In an article done on Business Wire in the fall of last year, it found that 85% of sports fans chose streaming services over an in person game. This trend is a bit worrying due to the fact that for younger fans, Generation Z or younger, they more enjoy short clips, TikTok reels, memes, and simple highlights. Video that is 5, maybe 10 minutes at most long. In 5 to 10 years, teams and leagues could lose out on millions because they could not relate to the interest of younger fans. So how do teams, how do leagues get and capture the attention of young sports fans? Well, one way that you can do this and also combat low attendance is by making the games more of an event, more of a spectacle. It's a fine line. You don't want to go too overboard where it then takes away from the game itself or makes the game redundant, but it needs to add to the fan experience so that there is a reason why fans are choosing to go to the game in person because there's something at the game that you cannot experience from watching the game on the seat of your couch. So, how are teams getting fans back into the stadium? Well, one example is the Intuit Dome, which houses the Los Angeles Clippers. This arena is really trying to set a new standard not just for NBA arenas, but for potentially how all future sports stadiums could be built. This arena is using state of the art technology. So, for example, they use technology called Game Face ID. So, what is it? According to the official Intuit Dome website, a user uploads a selfie of themselves to the app, and it scans your face from this uploaded picture, and then you don't need to take out a physical or digital ticket or your wallet to enter the stadium or pay for food, potentially saving you time at queues. Another technology that they're using in this stadium, according to an article done on Forbes, is that each fan in their seat on their armrest is given 4 interactive buttons, and they can participate in interactive games during TV timeout or intermissions. It then goes on to state that on the video board, which they call a Halo board, which is a double sided video board that provides panoramic views for the audience, that video board displays the information from the buttons for interactive games, replay, of course, and stats, all in an attempt to enhance the fan experience. Also, what the Intuit Dome is doing, as well as the University of Kansas with its new football stadium, is teams no longer, when building stadiums, they're not just building just the stadium, they are building a whole entertainment district. So, for example, the entertainment district that's coming to KU, it will have a hotel, it will have restaurants, it will have areas for fans to gather, all in an attempt to help engage fans as well as improve the fan experience. Again, try to provide an atmosphere that cannot that your couch can't compete with, I guess. The next issue is we're going to be looking at rising cost and challenges and revenue challenges. So, going to games has become extremely expensive. In an article done by CNN, it found that in 2023, the NFL average ticket price was $120. As for families, it was closer to $631 in total, and that included parking, food, as well as two souvenirs. So why is it getting so expensive to go to games? Well, one reason is because of construction for new stadium renovations. These cost millions of dollars, and these costs are factored into a long-term financial plan, which sees ticket prices increase, merchandise, concession. It's all about recouping the investment for that team. Also, what can go into this as is maintenance repair, extremely expensive. By adding fan engagement or improving the fan experience, it can increase prices because investing in larger video boards, stadium and technology improvements, as well as putting those new technologies in the stadium themselves, they cost millions, significant amount of money. Again, all about return on investment for the team. Another aspect is the fact that player salaries are getting larger. Now, it indirectly affects the price here because it shows a growth of the sports market and lead to an increase in limited ticket sales for that event, which increases the prices. Also, dynamic ticket pricing, which will change the price based upon who your team is playing, uh, who are the stars on the other team. Is this matchup a playoff matchup or have playoff implications? All of that is then factored into the ticket cost and can make it more expensive or less expensive. Next, we're going to look at some ethical and social responsibility concerns that sports managers have to deal with. The first is, of course, the athlete's welfare. As sports managers, it's all about giving athletes the access to quality mental and physical care. You also have to manage training schedules and act as a point of communication for the athletes and training staff. Lastly, you do have to do a little bit of potentially analyzing risk injury as well as risk management for players. Next, we dive into PED issues. Sports managers, you have to be able to raise the awareness for athletes to understand the health risks of PEDs. You also need to inform them of the repercussions from a team standpoint, from a league standpoint, if you are caught using PEDs. You have to, as a sports manager, emphasize the importance of fair play. You cannot turn a blind eye because one, it could lead to you losing your career, as well as ethically knowing that you are giving a substance that could potentially harm these athletes is not a great thing. Lastly, let's look at community engagement. This is obviously really important because it shows to the surrounding community that the team is there not just for purely profit, not just to take a lot of money from the people, but to show that they are part of the community, they want to be there long term. How do they do this? You have to strengthen your ties in the community by partnering up with local charities, uh, using your social media platform to address local issues, give back to youth sports programs, as well as have athletes come and visit some of these programs to make the kids excited, as well as, again, showing you want to be a part of the community. Now, let's take a look at our next big topic, which is technology in sports management. So, we are going to look at 3 different new technologies and how they're used and how sports managers manage them. So, let's first take a look at data analysis and performance tracking. So, this provides insight information based upon players' speed, fatigue, heart rate, all in order to provide and show players' strengths and weaknesses, all in an effort to help improve training programs, and it can also prevent injury. You can also use this in real game environments. It can provide precise information on where players are on the field, what positions or spaces they should move into, as well as potentially it can help prioritize optimal starting lineups as well as second half strategies. Next, let's take a look at AI. It's very similar to data analysis, however, AI takes it a step beyond because it still takes in the same information, but it learns from this information and learns from patterns in order to give you the most accurate data and to be able to predict accurately what steps need to be done or what could happen. For example, from its official website on Amazon, Prime Video last year used AI to give its viewers insight information on who was likely to rush the QB before the snap, what area in zone in the defense was the weakest in coverage ID. You could see then defensive schemes. It would also, on some plays, highlight certain receivers that they thought could either make the first down, likely to make the first down conversion, or cross the goal line to reach the end zone. These features, like I said, they were brand new last season. And they really were game changers for fans because of how reliable and accurate it was. It would show up on your TV, especially with showing who would blitz, and it most of the time was right and would call who would be doing that. The reason why this is so cool is because if NFL teams have not gotten their hands on either the actual data that Amazon used or something similar, this could really change how information is given to coordinators and coaches. It could change how practices and game film is studied. It's really cool potential right there. The last piece of technology that we are going to look into is VR, and augmented reality. So it can be used for training and game time strategy. So this technology allows sports managers to train athletes in a new way. In an article done by the Medium, it stated that VR and augmented reality provides the athletes with a safe and controlled environment to practice their skills. It also was really cool is that it can help simulate high pressure in-game scenarios. For example, last 30 seconds of an NBA game, you're down by 3, running those plays. Or final 2 minutes, you need to drive all the way down the field goal to tie it, touchdown to win the game. You can replay those scenarios over and over, which allows the athletes an environment to make mistakes, learn from these mistakes, all in hopes that when these situations happen in a game in real life, because of this type of training, the moment won't get to them. They will, because they've done it who knows how many times on this simulation, this is no different than that, and they rise to the occasion. Another added bonus is that because VR and augmented reality is in a controlled environment, there is little risk of injury or physical strain. You also can use it for fan engagement. So, augmented reality has been used to help spice up this fan experience, and I will look at how three different NFL teams are using it in a bit of different ways. The first team is the Carolina Panthers. According to their official website that shows the video of the product, they use augmented reality in their player introductions, and it shows a panther climbing on top of the scoreboard, jumping around the stadium, all in an attempt to pump up the crowd, something new. The next team that we'll discuss is the LA Rams, who are considered leaders in the NFL for using augmented reality because of how new their NFL stadium is. So, in an article done by Rocket, it shared that fans can point their phones at the field during specific times and engage with interactive 3D content like players. They can do special effects like make noise, and that it appears on the video board. It also can allow fans who are watching the game to still be able to participate and get a sense of that fan experience. The last example is from my own personal experience. So last December, I went to a Colts game, and it was the first time that I've ever seen them use augmented reality. So during a TV timeout or in between quarters, they had us fans use our phones, point around the stadium, at the field, and there were virtual drones that you could tap on your phone screen on the drone, and it would give you prizes. Sometimes the drone would be empty, sometimes it would give you discounted merchandise, um, or discounts at concessions. There might have been other big prizes, but again, it was all about a fun way to show fan appreciation, something new. Again, a really fun activity to do during a TV timeout. And the last kind of thing that is really interesting with virtual reality and augmented reality is its practical use for rehabilitation. So, since it's in a controlled environment, it already helps to mitigate injury, but it can also help the athletes in rehabilitation. So, in an article published on the National Library of Medicine, it stated that VAR can be used to help athletes recover. So, how does it do this? Well, it went on to state that VAR can allow for personal tailored rehab plans that can fit the athlete's needs based upon their injury. It also can collect information on the athletes, devise a recovery plan, and be modified as time goes on and based upon the information um, kind of given. As well as with immersive training, it allows the athlete to practice the movement in drills, which can help regain coordination, balance, and agility after injury. But the biggest thing is motivation and engagement. So, being an athlete myself, though it's been a while, I do remember that rehabilitation for sports injuries is one of the worst things about being in sports. And because of the fact that rehabilitation is so mentally draining and long and painful, some people have argued that this can get in the way of recovery because the athletes are, they want to get back on the field, they're not happy mentally, and then they're not able to focus and let their body heal. So VAR can potentially allow people to get really excited about rehabilitation because it's kind of like gaming. And because then now there's less mental strain, you can now focus more on healing rather than negative emotions that can get in the way of this recovery. Now we're going to look at some of the implications ethically that these technologies have. So, first, with data analysis and performance tracking, some of the main issues for that is privacy and data ownership. The question becomes, who has the right to the data? Do the teams legally own the data? Is it the players? Is it the league? This gray area can cause internal problems, and also based upon how teams handle this issue, handled poorly, it could cause individuals and players to not want to re-sign for that organization, or maybe even potentially actively seek a trade. Um, Another thing that employers must know is to not prioritize the data or to make decisions just because the data is telling to. You have to understand the data. You also have to make sure that that data makes sense for the situation. Don't let the data run you, if that makes sense. With AI, there's issues of transparency and accountability. So what does this mean? In an article done on the Tennessee Athletic Trainers Association, it dived into the issues of black box nature of some AI programs. And that is a system whose input and operations are not visible to the user. So you using that AI source, you have no idea what information has been put into that program to make that AI system what it is. And because there's that uncertainty on how decisions are made, you have to understand how the system works, explain it, understand the AI, and understand the AI recommendations. There's also an issue of bias and fairness. So AI systems are given vast amount of information during their training data in order to perfect the system, get rid of bugs in this process called machine learning. Unfortunately, sometimes with people who are coding or the developers, their own personal assumptions are put into the code, whether on purpose or accidental. Either way, this information that's been given is amplified, and biases present in this training data can affect marginalized group, as well as come to inequality decisions. So AI systems really have to be trained on diverse and representative data, or the managers must know, or as sports managers, we must know more exactly about what is going into these AI programs that we are potentially using. Next, with VR and augmented reality, the issues with this are potential psychological impacts. So, because VR is putting you into a virtual reality space, it makes it feel like the real world. This can cause potential memory manipulation. Especially in a game like football, this could have really negative effects on players. I think with this, you have to be kind of a bit cautious, especially with players who have had a history of brain injury or are in the concussion protocol or post concussion protocol, could be very susceptible to VR because it creates these false memories that they really think are real because of how realistic virtual reality has become. It's hard sometimes for people to realize where that line is. So that is something that potentially could be at risk. Our next subject is we're going to be talking about NIL. So there are 362 NCAA Division I members. 213 have NIL collective funds. About 149 don't. If we rounded up in the percentage, about 60% of Division 1 teams have an NIL fund. As for the Power 5 conferences, all 70 members have NIL funds. Though there are rules and regulations for NIL, it is still kind of a big mess. And there are some big issues that still plague NIL today. So one issue is who should and can be able to offer NIL deals. So this issue comes from a case from this past football season. So after going 3-0 for UNLV and knocking off a ranked Kansas at that point, in Kansas City was starting quarterback Matthew Shulka. He essentially, after 3 starts and going 3-0, quit on his team. The reason why was because he was a recent transfer player from Holy Cross, and while he was being recruited from Holy Cross, he chose UNLV over other schools because he was offered a $100,000 NIL payment to transfer to UNLV. This payment was offered by an unnamed assistant coach, and Shulka was never given the money that was promised to him. So because of that, he redshirted last season and was in the transfer portal and is no longer at UNLV. UNLV claims that this was a shakedown for money and that no contract or agreement of that amount of money had ever taken place. This case kind of shows you how potentially there has to be regulations on who has the authority to offer NIL deals. And you also have to kind of, I think, make it more known to the players who are the people who can give you NIL deals and who cannot. Also, I think that whenever an NIL deal is offered, whether it is verbally, over the phone, or during an in-person visit, there has to be a contract along with that. Now, the player does not have to sign that contract right away, but it's more as it protects both parties, because now there wouldn't be that kind of situation of they said, you said, well, let's just go look at the contract. Oh, here it is. There we go. Another issue with, not necessarily an issue, but I think it's going to be really interesting next year, is kind of what happened with Shedeur Sanders. So Sanders was the top NIL earner and was being paid about $6.5 million. Had he stayed another season at Colorado, would have earned the same or potentially $7 million, maybe even more. He was projected to be a first-round pick, which would have given him a rookie contract of a 4-year with a 5th-year option of $40 million. Instead, he fell to the 5th round and now has a contract of $4.2 million and one that is way less than the initial contract he thought he was getting, as well as the contract he would have gotten if he had returned to Colorado. The reason why I think that this is going to be really interesting is I think for a lot of future draft picks, they kind of want to know what happened, because he was projected to be a first-round pick, a top 5 pick. This kind of slide, what happened? Was it due to interviewing not going well? You can't really say talent-wise. I think it's just going to be very interesting and to see, does this now make future top prospects question whether are they really going to go that far? Is there a chance that they could fall that far? Would it be better to stay another year? Are we going to now see more top recruits say, I would rather collect more money in college than a potential NFL deal? That, I think, is just going to be something really interesting to see. Now let's kind of look at some future changes for NIL that I could see on the horizon. I think there has to be, as I said before, regulations, whether it's within the athletic department, whether it's just certain coaches or head coach can offer NIL deals, but there has to be some type of only these people can offer, so we can kind of mitigate that under the table scenario that happened at UNLV. As well as something that has been a really big, not issue, but more the transfer portal. Every year in basketball and football, more and more players are going into the transfer portal. And I'm not necessarily hating on them or wanting or like not necessarily getting why, maybe there's more money involved for that, you know, but more I think there needs to be in college either multiple contracts. So kind of with the contract, you have multiple options. That way you can mitigate these players transferring so much, as well as a lot of times these transfers are occurring because they want more money, just making it easier. So with contracts that are for multiple years, it could reduce the players in the portal, as well as help. You could either do negotiations while you're still negotiating your first NIL deal about, okay, if you do pick up an option for another year, this is already the predetermined amount or increase in NIL. Or it could be kind of a yearly thing where you agree we won't discuss it before, but more after. It just needs to be, I think, regulated a bit better. And lastly, we're going to talk about the impact of social media in sports. So, social media should have a positive impact and ideally should be able to connect international fans with the teams that they love and support, um, be able to get behind the scenes access to players, training, pregame, postgame, locker room shenanigans. Again, connection to the fan in a positive environment. But that's not the case. And it's not so much the fact what teams are doing, it's the fact that fans are using social media more and more to cause players unneeded stress, personal attacks on what they stand for based upon their appearance or based upon lack of effort in the game. I think with this, what needs to have happen is either the leagues need to have a better policing policy online in terms of not being able to show those hateful comments, or maybe it's on the social media managers to go in and remove those comments, or maybe kind of like what you do in Europe. If you are found to be sending racially or hateful messages to players, there are fines and not full prison sentences. I don't know if we need to go there, but it really is not becoming a positive place on social media. I think that there is more that we can do to help create it to be a positive environment. Over the next coming years, with the implementations of AI, new technologies in stadiums for fans, for fan engagement, technology innovation for training sports managers will need to learn a lot in order to understand these innovations and how to get the best out of them, out of the technology, and ensure that they're using the technology not as a tool and not as a crutch, but as a tool. It's going to be really exciting to see what sports managers will have to deal with in the next coming years.